rotate a little.
Right now, yeah, those guys don't deserve any airtime.
You guys sound way more angry than I do.
Those guys don't deserve.
That's because we're angry.
They are far outnumbered.
Miles, thanks for your time, man.
They always gotta choke 5 people in the whole crowd. Let's see students on the news. Students are leading this.
Hey guys, it's David West here. For those of you that don't know, this is my wife, Cassie. We're just here to kind of tell you about our experiences this last weekend at the March for Our Lives, or as we like to refer to it, the March to Deprive Us of Rights. That clip I showed at the beginning is really kind of the best intro to the whole day. The pro-gun side was, for the most part, just way more peaceful and reasonable than the anti-gun side. The anti-gun people were just like super mean and nasty, like vulgar and gross too. It was weird. It was way worse than I was expecting. There's a lot more people than I was expecting. I was expecting a few hundred. There ended up being probably a good 1,500, which surprised me. It's clearly a very well-funded movement that they have.
Yeah.
They're really seizing on this little opportunity. It was funny. They kept wanting to talk about how it was student-led, but at the end of the day, to me, it all just kind of looked like an AARP convention. It was a very old, crunchy crowd.
I do like though how they're like, this is a student organized thing. It looks like it's an AARP organized thing. It's a big thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's like let the students lead. There's like 15 of them.
15, yeah.
I know, could it maybe be that high schoolers don't care about this enough to
show up when it's not
show up
during
during
school?
spring break on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, but they'll skip school to go march, huh?
If I was a student, I would have walked out too. I mean, I would have been arguing with everybody.
For the most part, I thought the pro-gun side was, very like peaceful and respectful. There was one guy who was there who was just kind of yelling at everybody like, "You're a communist, get out of here," and being really belligerent. And for a second, I was like, oh gosh, oh no, how embarrassing.
Communist, you piece of shit. Wow.
But then actually after like I learned a little bit more about him and kind of briefly chatted with him and then talked to some other people to talk to him more, I found out that this guy was like, had actually like immigrated to America from Iran and his wife was from Russia. And so I was like, oh man, like there's probably a pretty cool story there. Whenever I see someone being like super belligerent, almost like an embarrassing degree about like gun rights or capitalism or anything like that, I'm like, I agree with you, man, but just tone it down a little. And then I find out, oh no, this person actually survived communism or authoritarianism of some sort. I'm always like, oh, you know what? I'll give you a pass. You know, you've kind of earned it.
Yeah.
And I've known other people like that where I'm like, you know what? You're all right. I'll let you be as belligerent as you want to these authoritarians because you earned it. The rest of us will be the respectful.
Yeah, because they know, and they know that one of the first steps is disarming the people. So, I mean, they just don't want that to happen here. They don't want to have to ever experience that again.
Yeah.
From my cold, dead hands! Gun rights are human rights. This is the best country in the world. You don't believe it? You can go to Mexico. You can go to England. In England, you don't have First Amendment speech. You get arrested for saying the wrong thing. In Canada, you get arrested for the same wrong thing. We only have First Amendment because of our Second Amendment. It's called Second Amendment, people. It's not going anywhere.
My biggest takeaway for the day was just that anti-gun liberals are very angry and very cranky, and they get crankier and meaner the older they get. One lady made some gross comment to me about, should I get you a dildo? Would that make you feel like a real man?
Can I just give you a dildo instead of your guns? We're all the same.
Wow, cool. I bet if I said that to you, you'd think that was very sexist and disgusting, but you can do whatever you want. Get out of here. You're trashy.
I think that the craziest instance, it wasn't one person in particular. It was when there was like 4 people ganged up on you, and that one girl was like, "Oh, I bet that you have a Confederate flag."
Wait a minute, guys. Listen, why don't you have your own march?
We do. I have to say about that. I don't have your own march. You don't care?
Gun reform.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you take your big crown?
Why would you carry an AR-15 around these kids who are afraid of their lives? Being gunned down out of school.
I'm not the one who fucking. I'm not the one who
How about before you spout out your Wow. I do not fly a Confederate flag.
Away from this lady.
I'm not going to do
You are. You're yelling at her face. You're not talking.
She's accusing me.
Not talking.
You know what she's talking about.
Not talking. You're yelling at her face.
I said, I'll bet you fly a Confederate flag, and that made you
And I
mad,
don't.
didn't it?
I don't.
That made you mad.
I don't fly a Confederate flag.
The great thing about this is our Confederate dialogue. It's a
I
public.
bet you have friends who do, and it was pretty
The road's a lot worse.
Can we ask you what it is? Gun
Try and stay off of it.
She's trying to
Gun reform! 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 That's because we have brains and words. That's because you're
22 bolt action 22 would be banned under this new
You guys
legislation.
are trying to get the government, which has a bunch of guns, to pass laws.
We're trying to protect our kids.
I just think it's pathetic when our youth are out here saying that they're afraid of guns and you're waving guns in their faces. That's what this is about. You're scaring children. I don't care about the laws. You are bad people. You are scaring children. They're afraid of guns right now, and you're out here waving your guns in their faces.
We're not asking yours, son. We're asking the people who are victims of school shooting.
Victims of the
Outlaw school shooting.
high school students who are afraid of seeing that, and you're gonna come waving in their face? You're just a pathetic person. Gun reform!
Guys are not a part of this march, please. Exit the march.
Gun reform! Gun reform!
Don't care about
You're
free
a
speech.
bad
We
person.
understand you don't care about
You're a
free
bad
speech.
person.
Welcome to socialism. We understand.
Where are you guys getting this idea that I fly a Confederate flag? I've spent half the day trying to ask people,
Who do you think the most authoritarian president any of us have ever seen is going to disproportionately enforce gun control laws against? Do you think he's going to be arresting white people for owning guns? Probably not. Oh, you don't give a shit. So you're okay if a black guy gets arrested for an AR-15?
AR-15s out public hands. They should not be anywhere but in the military.
it's like they didn't even want to consider the possibility that there could be a gun owner who isn't a racist or, isn't even a Republican, isn't even really a typical conservative. They just didn't want to hear it. Speaking of people who didn't want to have their preconceived notions challenged, one of the more hostile run-ins I had was ironically with someone from the Veterans for Peace organization. And this is actually an organization that I went to one meeting of in Grants Pass years ago. And honestly, I don't think I ever went to a single other meeting because as soon as I brought up Ron Paul, from everything they said, I realized, oh, this isn't Veterans for Peace. This is Veterans for Socialism. They were all just straight up leftists. This Veterans for Peace guy just over and over kept trying to accuse me of you need to stop watching Fox News. And I'm literally guy, why do you think I like Fox News? Look at my sign.
I don't want propaganda. Sir, so much bullshit. Sir, I don't like Republicans, the military, Donald Trump. What makes you think I watch Fox News?
I don't know.
The police, I hate the police.
Are you against these kids demonstrating for their lives?
I'm against anyone who wants to take rights away from people.
Well, rights bullshit. The Second Amendment had nothing to do with AR-15.
I don't care what the Second Amendment says.
High velocity ammo.
I have read it. You probably haven't researched what it actually means, but I don't care.
I think we have.
The right to own property exists outside of the
my
Second
country
Amendment.
in Vietnam, so
Sir,
don't give me any shit.
Okay, I fought in Iraq, and then I realized the government's evil. The war was killing innocent people. It's sad that you can realize that war is bad, but not realize that gun control is an act of violence.
NRA is evil and Fox is evil, so that's it.
I don't like Fox News, people. Why do you think I like Fox News?
I would say that my biggest takeaway was that I would not ever send my kids to public school. Not because I would be afraid that they would get shot, but because so many of the people there were people that would say, oh, I'm a high school teacher, or, I work in the schools, and they were just completely irrational. They couldn't make logical arguments. That is not someone that I would want educating my children.
Yeah, no, that's so true. There was a couple times where we'd be talking to someone and they'd just be like screaming in our face or just saying like the craziest, most ridiculous things you ever heard. And they'd be like, I'm an educator. I know. And my wife and I just kind of look at each other like,
wow.
Oh boy. There was like this one big fat guy in particular who accosted me like as soon as we got out of the car and was like, you got a little dick? You think you're a big man? This guy was like a high school substitute teacher.
Right.
He made sure to tell us like 20 times. And we all had several run-ins with him throughout the day. And he got like friendlier as the day went on. But you could tell he thought that he was like Mr. just so reasonable.
Right.
I mean, we're not even going to show you like very much of the footage. Like we didn't really get anything that interesting. We kind of more just had the camera for security than anything, I think.
We shouldn't have to protect our children from you.
What am I doing to you, sir?
You are carrying something that has one purpose in the world, and that is to kill people.
I don't think you want me to have this gun, sir.
No, we don't.
Exactly.
How many semi-automatic rifles does it take to kill an antelope?
How many does it take to stop a mass murderer?
How many guns were pointed at the windows of the Mandalay Bay Hotel the night of the Vegas massacre? There were hundreds of guns pointed at that window. He still shot over 600 people with a gun just like that.
All right.
Just so you know, Mr. AR, I can do this for hours. And you have nothing but the Second Amendment to stand on.
Nice to meet you. Anyway. I care about you, man. I care about your rights.
I care about my rights too.
And you have every right to defend yourself, your life, liberty, and freedom.
You know the key word in everything having to do with gun violence? You know what the key word there is? Gun. If there were no guns, there would be no gun violence. Argue that with me.
What do you think we have in London? They have people turning in their knives because of knife violence. Next, are we going to get rid of our knives?
I know.
Perhaps we'll use rocks.
I know. You don't.
Maybe
I
we'll
know.
have rock.
You don't.
The first time I talked to him, within like 30 seconds of talking to him, he's like, I mean, if you had a big bag of cocaine, I'd take it from you. And I'm like, what? What does that have to do with anything? Like, what? I think cocaine should be legal, but what are you even getting at? And he's like, well, because you could hurt yourself with cocaine, so I should take your gun too. And I mean, what I'm saying sounds like it makes no sense. Like, what are you talking about? It sounds like you're telling an incomplete story, but that's because this guy didn't make very much sense. I really wish we'd got it on video, but at one point he was even like, if I didn't think, that there was a chance that you'd kill me, I would try to take away your gun right now. He was just a crazy person. I'm sure I'll get some flack for this, but the more I see like public school teachers demonstrate, be it against gun rights or for how low their salary supposedly is, man, they are just a pissy, low intelligence group of people. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know some good public school teachers, but my gosh, the ones that get politically active must be a terrible sampling of that group.
Well, I hope it is.
Yeah, exactly. I hope. I mean, my kids will never go to a public school.
So we won't really find out. But
for the sake of everybody else,
right.
I hope that the ones that we're seeing are terrible.
For other people's sake.
Last time there was a big teachers union protest over wages in Medford, when I posted just a little thing kind of being like, well, here's what the median income actually is. Maybe these people aren't as lowly paid. I literally had someone report my post as containing nudity.
Oh my gosh.
Like these people are just children. And
wow.
And then you go in all like the comments on local news articles, which that's a whole can of worms right there. If you ever want to lose faith in humanity, read local news comments. But you'd see all these people writing these borderline illiterate comments, ranting on and on about how teachers need to be paid more. And then as soon as you post something where you're like, well, but actually their income doesn't really look that bad. It's a little bit above, at least, if not quite a bit above the median income, and they only work 10 months out of the year. And then that person retort to you like, This person who, mind you, was writing illiterately for 20 ranting, uncapitalized, unpunctuated posts. They'll be like, no, you're wrong. And I know because I am an educator. And you're like, oh boy. Well, good thing my kids will never be taught by you because you're an idiot.
Yeah. One thing that actually really stood out to me at the march was just how many people didn't feel any sort of sense of personal responsibility. And it was actually shocking how many teachers I heard say, I shouldn't have to learn how to defend myself just to go to school or just to go to class. And it's like, but why wouldn't you? I mean, if you know bad things can happen in the world, I mean, why are you depending on the government to come save you? Why are you depending on the police, who we know aren't always up to the challenge? Why are you depending on them to come save you? Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I know if I were a teacher, I would feel so much safer being armed. And that simple concept of taking personal responsibility for your own safety is just appalling to these people.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a teacher who isn't comfortable with guns and doesn't want to carry one, that's fine. You're right. Like, some people seem to have this idea there that those of us who think, hey, a teacher should be allowed to have a gun, they would think that means teachers have to carry guns, which is ridiculous. I would never want to force people to carry a gun. But if you don't want to carry a gun, that's fine. But you should just take solace in the fact that you'll probably never need one. And the odds of getting killed in a school shooting are absolutely minuscule. You're infinitely more likely to die in a car accident on the way to work.
I'm a teacher, and do you believe my right to teach children, and now I have to go through gun safety laws?
Statistically safer today than they've ever been. There's an article in NPR like 2 days ago talking about how the death rate is about half of what it was 30 years ago.
Well, it doesn't feel like it when our children have to sit behind locked doors, and now I have to go through Alice training and train as if a shooter was in my classroom. It doesn't feel safer to me. I've been teaching for 20 years.
Have you considered the possibility that maybe it just doesn't feel safer because we're so much more connected now? People hear about everything.
People do hear about everything, and that's why we're fighting against it, because no more children need to die in their school. No more people need to die in a movie theater. No more people need to die at a concert. People are shooting and killing people. We need to stop it.
Okay, do you know what America's murder rate is today?
I don't. But
it's about 4.5 per every 100,000 citizens. Do you know what it was 30 years ago?
Why would I want it to be like 30 years ago?
No, you don't want it. You don't want it to be like 30 years ago. Because 30 years ago, it was about 10 per 100,000 people.
There were some people that were just like crying that seemed so fake. There's this one lady in particular on the news, local news, who was crying about how her 9-year-old granddaughter is afraid to go to school. And it just struck me as really fake.
I'm here because my granddaughter's 9 years old and she's afraid to go to school. And that's horrible.
Even if the girl really is scared, my thoughts were just like, you're teaching this girl this. You and the adults in her life, if she's scared, you're the ones that are dropping the ball. You're the ones that are teaching her this. Our 5-year-old daughter knows that I carry a gun. Can you imagine how rightfully crazy people would think that I was if I was teaching my daughter to be afraid of ever going to a friend's house or spending time with a relative without me around to protect her with my gun? These people are basically just teaching their kids to be terrified. When, if you look at the statistics, they bear out that schools are about the safest they've ever been. There's like basically a 1 in 5 million chance of dying in a school shooting.
Okay, everybody, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall
Overcome by having people take our rights away?
I'd prefer my rights taken away than
Sounds like a good way to lose both of them.
I haven't lost either.
One of the things that I hope to be able to do moving forward to, fight for gun rights and to just kind of fight for truth and knowledge in general, because there's so much ignorance being spouted on both sides of the issue, actually, mostly on the anti-gun side. But there's a lot of people on the pro-gun side that are just not good at arguing for our cause. So I really hope that I can get out there, try to do some debates. I'm kind of in the early stages of trying to get something going with one of the organizers of this event where I can debate him publicly. And I think it would get a lot of good information out there for people. And, I mean, I don't think that we're going to change the minds of like the hardcore gun grabbing left that want to ban everything. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are a lot more in the middle than I think either side wants to admit. And I think we can at least keep those people in the middle, or even convince them to kind of sway a little bit towards gun rights. I don't think we'll get them to be, repeal the NFA, suppressors for all gun rights activists overnight. But if we can be the side that stays away from the purely emotional arguments, I think we'll win.